I'm going to look at how to create a Python program that uses a MariaDB database. So I'm going to start out with just starting out with the database and working my way up piece by piece so you can see how to build a command line database accessing application. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my root account, and then once I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and install the MariaDB server. So I do apt install MariaDB server, install that. Once I have that installed, I want to install the Python interface. So I'll do apt install Python 3-MySQL connector. So I need the database in order to create the database and do stuff there, and then I need the connector in order to be able to work with it and communicate with it. So next I'm going to create my tables in the database. So we're going to do MariaDB, and since I'm logged in as root, it will automatically jump in as the root account and give me full access there. I'm going to go ahead and create a database first. So I'll do create database. And I'm going to keep track of a list of contacts and their phone number, or their phone numbers. So contact there. And then I can use that database, so contacts. And once I'm in it, I'm going to create a single table, just so you can see how to do that. So to create table, I can type create table lowercase, but I just like doing this with capitals for the keywords, just so I can keep track of what's what. So I'll need a contact ID, and that'll be an int, and it will be not null. And I'll also do an auto increment. That way, whenever I create a new record or a new row, it will just create a new one, or a new ID. So I'll do last name, and I'll do that as a varchar 255. And let's also make that one not null. And we'll do a first name as a varchar 255. It's a long first name, but might happen. Not null. And let's have a phone number. And make that also a varchar 255. Now, obviously, you can choose different things when you are creating your database, but we're just going to keep it simple just so you know how to do it. Then I need my primary key. I could have put that on the first line with the contact ID, but I'll put it right here. And I'll make that contact ID. And I think that is it. So now it is there. I can describe it. Contact. So I have the contacts database with a contact table inside of it. And it has a contact ID, a last name, first name, and a phone number. I'm going to go ahead and insert something into it now. So insert into contact. And I'm going to do last name, first name, and a phone number. And I will pass it the values. For my last name, I will do Doe. Then I will put John. That's the first name. And his phone number is 123, which is a nice short phone number. But hopefully you can remember that. So now that's in the table, I can select star from my contact table, and I can see that John Doe is in there. All right, so now I have that created. I want to go ahead and set it up so that someone can connect to it, because I want my program to connect to it, but I don't want to use the root account. So do grant all on contacts dot star. And you can have less permissions if you wanted to, but this is the basic idea to get started. So grant all on contacts star to, I'll call my API at localhost identified by the password. So I'll just do aloha123. Nice, simple secret password. And so it's been created. I can go ahead and exit out of here. If I wanted to get in as that user, I could type in MariaDB minus H for the host name of local host, minus U, the username of API, and minus P to prompt for the password. And then if I wanted to, I can add an additional argument here to tell it which table I'm going to, or which database I'm going into. So I could just say contacts right here, and then it'll prompt me for the password, which is aloha123, and then I get in there and I can type in my tables and see there's a contact table. I can select a star from that contacts or contact table, and there we go. All right, so that is in place. Next, I want to create a library that will interact with it that I can then use with other programs. So I need to figure out where I want to put my library. This current directory looks pretty good, but I'll just go ahead and make a directory. So my contact list program is in that directory. So we go my contact list. All right, empty directory, and I'm going to go ahead and create a contact module there. So I'll do nano contact API.py. And I'm going to create a class. Let's see, I need to create my class contact API. And I'm going to be doing a bit of working with the database, so I need to make sure I have the database up and going. So first thing I want to do is make sure I have a connection, and we'll initialize that as none, and I need to have a cursor which I use to then communicate with that connection, and I'll set that to none. Before I can actually connect the database, I need to import my mysql.connector. All right. Let's go ahead and connect to the database now. So connect to the database, and I'll do self connection equals MySQL connector dot connect, and I need to pass in the host, user, password, and database. So host equals localhost, and my user equals API. My password equals aloha123, and my database that I'm going to be connecting to was the contacts database. All right, let's go ahead and close that, and then I want to create the cursor. So cursor equals, and that is from the connection, self connection cursor. All right, so now I have a connection and a cursor. I'm going to be doing a bunch of work with data, and when I put data into the database, it's possible that it can be messed up. Everything I had in that table was a varchar, and so I want to make sure I clean up text. So I'll do a def clean text. Now you can do a much more complex one, but I'm going to keep this one really simple and safe. So text gets passed in. It has a size 255 is the default. So if it's anything bigger than that, then I'd have to change it, and if it's smaller, I'd have to change that as well. But I want to take that text, and first I want to remove any white space. So text strip. So take off any leading or trailing white space. Then I want to do a text equals Sixth, I'm going to remove any characters after 255. So just 0 to 55. So it's from 0 for 255 characters. Actually, I don't want to do the 255. I want to do size here. Size, because it might be different. And then my text, I want to actually escape it so that I can take special characters that will mess with the database and not have them. Yeah, converter, and escape the text. You don't want to run that multiple times because that could be a bit of a problem, but you just have it there. Okay, so now I've got my text. It should be cleanable right there with that clean text. So I'm going to have basically 4 operations. I'm going to add contacts, list my contacts, delete contacts, and then update my contacts. So I'll do let's start with the add contact, and myself, and the contact needs a last name, a first name, and it needs a phone number. All right, so once I have that information, I want to sanitize my data. Sanitize the input. And the way to do that is with my clean text. So I will have my last name equal to my self clean text with the last name. So it'll just pass it in there, get cleaned up, and then come back out so I can use safely. First name equals self clean text, first name, and then the phone number, clean text, phone. All right, so that will sanitize the data. Now I'm going to create my SQL code. So generate the SQL. So the SQL equals, and I like doing the triple quotes. And this is an add, so it'd be insert into contact. Let me pass it the name so it can get the right order. Last name, first name, phone. Then I'll pass my values. So these ones are going to be passed in as variables. All right, so the variables right there, and I close the triple quotes, and then I'll pass tuple with my last name, first name, and my phone number here. So those get replaced in there, and they get put into the SQL. And then I want to actually execute my SQL. So execute, and I'll also commit the SQL. So I do self cursor execute SQL, and then I want to commit self connection commit. If you have multiple things you want to commit all at once, like if you create a new user and you have multiple different fields, you want to make sure you put them all together and then you commit when they're all executed and inserted. That just keeps it safer. All right, I want to be able to list them too, so I'll do a list contacts, so self, and that's actually it. We don't really need anything else. So I just need to get a list of them. So I'll generate my SQL, generate SQL, and this is a select statement. Select, so contact ID, last name, first name, and phone number from contact. At this point, I can also decide to sort it. So do order by, and let's do last name, first name, just that order. That's probably good. I could also have it sorted by phone number if they have last name, first name matched, but we'll just do that. I want to execute it. And so I do self cursor execute the SQL. And then I want to get my results. Get results. And so I like to be safe and make sure I return a list even if there's no data. So data equals self cursor fetch all. And so then if not data, so that nothing comes back, then I just want to return an empty list. And then I just return a list, return data if there is something. So that way I make sure I have a list to go through and iterate through. I also want to be able to delete things. Def delete contact. And all you need for deleting contact is the contact ID, because you don't need to know the name. It's just delete them by the name, by the contact. So we want to make sure we have sanitize my inputs. In this case, it's just the ID. So I will have my contact ID equal an int of contact ID. That way, make sure we're passing in an integer and not something else, because if you pass in a string and it does some kind of a hacking thing, you don't want that. We don't want SQL injection attacks. And then I want to generate my SQL. And so my SQL equals delete from contact where contact ID equals %s. And then I pass in that contact ID. All right, so that will take care of that. Once again, you just want to execute and commit. So I'll take these lines, Control K and Control U, and so just copy and paste them right there. So same ones again. Next, I want to update the contact. Update contact, which is going to be similar in style to inserting or adding as far as the data that comes in. So I've got my contact ID, my last name, my first name, and my phone number. I want to sanitize my data. So sanitize inputs. And I can sanitize the contact ID with this one right here. So I'll just cut and paste that one right here. And then as far as the other three, the way I did that was right here. So I'll cut those out and then I'll paste them as well down here. So I've got all three of those now sanitized. Next, I want to generate the SQL. So this one is an SQL equals update contact. I want to set last name equals %s, first name equals %s, and phone equals %s, where contact ID equals %s without the quotes or the single quotes. All right. And then I just pass in my list of last name, first name, phone, and contact ID. So last name, first name, phone, and contact ID. All right, that is beautiful. All right, next I just need to execute it and commit it. Let's copy this line up here. Go ahead and paste that right here. There we go. All right, at this point, I think I have everything I need in this file. I could test it out. That would be an interesting thing to do. So Python 3, import my contact API and see if I have any bugs. So C equals contact API, contact API. So I create an instance of my class and C list contacts. It lists my contacts. C add contact. So it was probably the last name. So Doe Jane, and her phone number is 234. Nice short number. And now list the contacts, and I can see that they are both in there. So that's a good sign. I want to go ahead and update Jane. So let's see, update contact. And I want to, let's see, the contact ID would be 2. Her name is still Jane, but she got married or changed it to Davis. Jane. And her phone number is now 345. And I can list that and see, yes, it still works correctly. That's good. And then we go ahead and see delete contact. And I'm going to delete Jane's number 2. List it, and I can see that it works. So all of my functions now work. So you can press Control D. And you can see, you can cut out this contact API. You can see it's nice and pretty. All right. Next, I want to create a program that will use this API. In order to do that, I need to have a program, so I'll just call it contact list. So contact list.py. And this thing is going to execute, so I need it to run. And my Python interpreter is at Python 3 right there, user bin Python 3. And I want to import sys, because I want to be able to get command line arguments, and import my contact API so that I can get, well, update and communicate with the database. If someone passes in a bad value, I want to have some kind of usage statement. So I'll create that. Usage. And I'll just do a print usage. Print. Let's print out the name of my program. So /t, and then %s for the program, and then basically say command, type in a command, and you can pass in optional arguments if there are any. And because I'm passing in some program name, I need to figure out the program name, and that is sys.argv0. That is the name of the program, argv0. All right. Now, my other options. Let's see. You have a list to list all the options. Print. You have an add, and then you need a last name, a first name, and a phone. Maybe I should make this lowercase. So list, and then add, so you can see which ones are your variables. Print, delete your ID, and print update ID, your last, your first, and your phone. All right, so there's our usage statement. So if someone passes in something that doesn't work, then you can print out the usage statement. I'm not going to do a whole lot of testing to make sure it's done correctly, but I'll just show you how to do basic testing. So I'll load my library. And I'll just call it C. So contact API. Contact API is the name of the class. Next, I want to figure out what the command they typed in. So I'll get command. First of all, if there is only one argument, then that means that single argument is the name of the program. If there are two arguments, then that means there's something passed in. So if the length of sys.argv is less than 2, that means that there was no command passed in. So I can just do a usage statement, and I can just do sys exit, and then we are done. All right, now my command is going to be equal to my sys argv1. So argv0 is the name of the program. Argv1 is the name of the first argument. There we go. Then I'll do if command equals list. Then they want to list everything out. And that one's really easy. So I'm going to say data equals my C list contacts. Get that list, and that might be an empty list, right? Then I'm going to print out some kind of a table. So print, so my ID, and put a tab because I don't really want to count out the size. I could count out the sizes and make sure I know it all, but I'm not going to do that. So ID, the last name, the first name, and the phone. Then I'm going to print out a bunch of dashes so that it separates out. You can adjust your dashes later, but it's just fine to have them there. For contact in data, so for every line, every row in there, I want to print out the contact information. It comes across as a tuple that has an ID, last name, first name, and phone number. So it's same exact order. So I can just do a %s/t for a tab, %s/t for a tab, %s another tab, and a %s. So 4 %s's, and I can just pass in that contact tuple and just display it. At this point, I should be able to exit out and just test it. So let's go to exit out and save the buffer. And I need to change permissions. So chmod 755 contact list. And let's do that. Contact list, run it by itself. It prints out my usage statement, pass in list, and it lists out John Doe. So everything's working so far. So I'm going to go back in and edit a little bit more. So if my command is, let's see, let's do an add, then I need a few more things. I want to make sure that it has at least 5 arguments, because you have to add, the first one is the name of the program, the second one is the add command, third is last name, fourth is first name, and the fifth is the phone number. So if the length of sysargv is less than 5, Then I want to do a usage statement. And just do a exit. All right. So that should take care of that, exit 0. Now I want to just go through and get it. So my last name is going to be from sys argv 2. First name is going to be sys argv 3. And the phone number is going to be from sys argv 4. And then I just add it in there. So C add contact, last name, first name, and my phone number. So I knew the next one now. So the delete. If cmd equals delete, then I want to once again check to see how many I need. So I can copy that and paste that. Now I don't want 5 because I need just the program name, the delete command, and the number. So that's 3. All right. So my contact ID is going to be equal to the int of sysargv of 2. Now, once again, if you have any weird things passed in, it should block it out and just crash. So that's good. Delete contact. And my contact I'm going to be deleting is the contact ID. So that's pretty quick. And then my last one is the update. So the command equals update. Then I can go ahead and paste that stuff there. Except update's going to need one more. It's going to need 6, I believe. So I'm going to do my contact. Let's copy that line there. Contact ID is first. Oops. Sorry. Contact ID is first. So contact ID, and then the next 3 I'm going to do right here, but these ones are a slightly different order, so I need to add 1 to each of these. All right, so now I've got my contact ID, my last name, first name, and my phone number, and so I can go ahead and update the contact. So c.update contact, my contact ID. I've got my last name, first name, and my phone number. So this right here should be all I need for my program. So I can go ahead and save that, and if I have no bugs, it should just work. So I can list everybody out there. I can do an add. I have to type everything in. So add Jane, or actually no, it's Doe Jane 456. I can list it and see that she's there. I can go ahead and update, and then it's number 3, and we'll change her last name to Smith, and keep it Jane, and change her phone number to that. Once again, I can list it, and I can also contact list, and this time I'm going to delete John Doe. So delete 1, and list it, and you can see that all we have left is Jane Smith. All right, so with this, we have done quite a bit. We have created the database. We installed the software, created the database, we created the table, we put initial row in the table, we then created an API that we talk to the database with, and we also created a program that uses the API that talks to the database and updates stuff. So I hope that gets you started on figuring out how to communicate with the database.